Good afternoon and welcome to our Friday of Welcoming Week. We are thrilled to have the speaker we have today talking about consumer protection education, a very important issue. But before we get to our incredible speaker and the knowledge that he is going to impart upon us, I would just like to say on this concluding day of Welcoming Week, thank you to everyone who's participated this week. Thank you to all of our audience members. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our incredible board. And obviously, thank you to the amazing people who work at Global Cleveland every single day. Nancy Janis, Supriya Tamang, Elizabeth Kuzma, Colin Derrick, Rosarito DeMillo, Allison Redder, Melissa Bile, Gwendolyn Kocher, Fatima Rahman, and William Worling. We're very lucky to have the team that we do, and I want to thank you. I also want to thank the people who are all around me here on this Zoom background, and these are the folks who helped sponsor today. Without whose support, we couldn't do the programming that we do or the outreach. Those are Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Water Department, Italian Tours and Travel by Diana, K&D, United Church of Christ, Katney's Classic, City of Shaker Heights, Cleveland State University, Cuyahoga Community College, the Cuyahoga County Public Library, Dealer Tire, the Downtown Cleveland Alliance, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, the Cleveland Marathon 2021, brought to you by Union Home Mortgage and Jack Staff, RPM International, Swagelock, Welcome House, Platform Brewery, AMS, Medical Mutual, Mitchell's Ice Cream, the Cleveland Transformation Alliance, Grants Plus, Mansur Gavin, Margaret W. Wong and Associates, Midtown Cleveland, Neighborhood Family Practice, the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, the Cleveland Foundation, the City of Cleveland, and Cuyahoga County. Thank you to our sponsors and all the people who help participate and make that happen. This is the last day of Welcoming Week. Couldn't happen on a better day when our governor just announced that we were going to welcome over 400 people coming from Afghanistan right here in Northeast Ohio, many of whom would be living in Cleveland, who I know will be watching the taped version of this incredible presentation. So when they get here, they can get all the scoop in terms of making sure that they are doing the right thing by our amazing speaker, who I will now introduce. John Miller Steiger is the director of the East Central Region for the Federal Trade Commission of the United States. It is the nation's consumer protection agency. His office brings cases in federal court against scammers and false advertisers and educates individuals and businesses about how they can avoid these problems and have the most successful business that they can. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome John Miller Steiger, who will begin his presentation from the Federal Trade Commission. John.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. And let me also thank Supriya and Nancy, the people that I was working with in setting this up. Thank you for inviting me here today. And I am particularly honored to be working with this great organization and to be part of Welcoming Week and to be on the final day too. I am very honored to be here. So I'm going to be talking for a little bit, for a while, and then hopefully there'll be a chance for me to answer questions, because I want to make sure to address any concerns that those of you who are watching might have. There are people trying every way they can to take other people's money and their personal information. They will lie to you, pretending that they are part of a company or part of the government or your church or your mosque, or that they can offer you a special deal. Some of them use stories that appeal to everyone in America, and some of them use stories that are specific to the international population in the United States. As Joe said in his introduction, I am here from the Federal Trade Commission. I am the director of the East Central Region, which is actually based right here in Cleveland, but covers 8 states. So we're very fortunate to have that here in Cleveland. The Federal Trade Commission is a part of the federal government whose job is to protect all people in the United States from these liars that would try to trick you into giving over your money or your personal information. We do that by sharing what we know about these scammers with everyone we can, so people can protect themselves, their families, and their communities. We also go into court if we need to in order to stop these liars and, if possible, punish them and try to get money back to the victims of these scams wherever possible. The liars, these scammers and false advertisers who are targeting you and your community, are going to try and take advantage of the fact that many in the international communities are still learning how things work in the United States. They will say things that seem like they might be true, but all their stories have three things in common. They will try to scare you in some way. They will try to rush you into a decision, and they will ask you for sensitive personal information or for money. See, they know that when people are scared or worried, we don't make good decisions, and they are counting on us not thinking straight when they ask us for something. They know that when we are rushed into a decision, we also tend to make bad choices and don't check in with people who could help us think through what the scammers are saying. And while they sometimes ask for money, many times they will ask for sensitive personal information like your A number or social security number if you have one, because they can sell that information to other scammers. So someone can still be trying to take advantage of you, even if they're not asking you for your money. And unfortunately, they may be within your community. Many scams that target both US-born communities and international communities come from within their own community. That's how they get what they want. We often trust people who speak our language or seem to come from our same homeland. The liars take advantage of this every chance they get. My goal today is to let you know that there is information that you can trust and that you can use to protect yourself, your friends, your family, and your community from these scammers and false advertisers. And you do not need to pay money or give up sensitive information to get this. If you remember only one thing from what I say today, please remember this website I'm about to give you, www.ftc.gov. Again, that's FTC for Federal Trade Commission.gov. From that website, you can find helpful information in English and in many other languages about some of the most common stories, the most common scams that are targeting you and your communities. From that website, you can also report these scammers to us. We keep details of these reports so that all sorts of government agencies can investigate these scammers and try to stop them. You can leave as much or as little information as you want. The most important information is about the scammers and the fake stories they are telling you. If you feel more comfortable doing that anonymously, that's fine. We just want the information about the people who are targeting you. If you remember only two things from what I say today, please remember the website, www.ftc.gov, and that your information can be worth just as much as any money that you might give over to these people. Many people know that they need to be careful with their money, with their credit card numbers and their bank account information. But there are lots of people who are just trying to get your birthday, your immigration information, or even just your phone number, because they can then sell that information about you. If they're not asking you to pay, it may be because they're planning to take money off of your personal information. And if I can help you remember three things from my talk today, I hope that it's the website, ftc.gov. Notice how I'm repeating this as a way to try and help you remember. The fact that your information is worth just as much as your money. And then the third thing is that your best protection is to fight off the fear and the urgency they're trying to make you feel, and for you to take your time. Our studies have shown that people are much less likely to be tricked by a scammer if they first take their time to look into and think about the story the scammer is telling. And second, if they share the story with a family member, a friend, or a trusted source to see what they think. Our studies also show that people who know about scams ahead of time usually aren't tricked by the lies. So I'm now going to tell you about some of the specific scams, some of the specific stories people are telling the international communities to try to take your money and your personal information. Please share this information with your family, your friends, your community, any groups that you are a part of. Because once they know ahead of time what the scams are like, they are going to be in the best position to protect themselves. So I'm going to start and actually spend most of my time talking about imposter scams. This scam has many different stories, but they all have the same core. Someone pretends to be something or someone that they are not in order to get your money or your personal information. Usually the scammers are pretending to be a government agency or a known company. We know from the reports we get from people who go to our website that scammers posing as government or legitimate businesses is one of the biggest problems facing both international and domestic populations in the United States. Last year, the Federal Trade Commission received almost 500,000 reports about imposter scams. And we know at the FTC that only a small fraction of people who face a scam actually report it to us. So we know the problem is much, much bigger. People reported losing about $1.2 billion just to imposter scams and just in the year 2020. In Ohio, imposter scams was the biggest type of scam that we heard of, with people living in Ohio losing almost $20 million just in the first half of this year. And again, this isn't a survey where we're making predictions. These are the reports that we get. And we know the problem is much, much larger than the reports we're getting. So these imposter scams are affecting so many of us in so many of our communities. With advances in technology, it's very easy to put together a letter, email, a text, or a call that looks like it's coming from a company or a government agency. The scammers can cut and paste pictures from a government or bank website into their letter or email to make it seem legitimate. Some scammers can even make it seem at first look like an email is coming from a legitimate email address. In fact, we had a problem recently where scammers sent out an email that seemed to be from the chair of the Federal Trade Commission, our agency, the agency that is actually fighting these types of scams. And these guys tried to did send around an email to try to trick people into thinking that it was coming from our chair. The scammers made it seem that our agency, the FTC, was collecting information to hand out coronavirus money, when it really was just a scammer trying to steal that information for their own purposes. And the scammers also have the technology to make fake phone numbers show up on your caller ID. So you think it's a legitimate government office or company who is calling you. For example, sometimes the phone call will show ICE or a bank name on the caller ID, even though it's actually a scammer. It's illegal for them to do this, but these are people who don't care about the law. They'll do whatever it takes in order to get your money or information. So let me focus in on government imposter scams. This is probably the biggest scam affecting international communities in the United States. One day, you may get an email or a text from USCIS or from ICE. It may tell you that you need to pay money or give important information to them by a certain deadline, or you will lose benefits, or you need to give money in order to get benefits. You see the ICE logo and it's addressed to you. It tells you to click on a link or open an attachment or just call a phone number. Or maybe you get a call asking you just to confirm your information. Is it real, or is this an imposter scam where the liar is just pretending to be from the government agency? How do you know if it's legitimate? First, real ICE and USCIS agents will never offer benefits or threaten to take away benefits in exchange for money. Some people have reported being told that they have to provide merchandise or even sexual favors in order to get benefits. Again, real immigration agents will never ask for that. The email, call, or text saying there's an emergency is a sign to be careful that it may be scammers. Remember that scammers want to scare us into making bad decisions. So they will use fear and they will use emergencies in order to get us to make those bad decisions. Real ICE and USCIS agents will never ask you to pay using gift cards, prepaid cash cards, money services like Western Union or cryptocurrency. Scammers, however, do ask to be paid that way because it's very difficult for law enforcement to trace money paid in those ways. So if someone you don't know in any situation asks you to pay using gift cards, prepaid money cards, wire services like Western Union or cryptocurrency, it's a scam. Real ICE and USCIS agents also will never ask someone else to collect money from you for immigration benefits. So if someone says they're a law firm or a debt collector trying to get you to pay in order to get or keep immigration benefits, they're lying. Another aspect of this are fake immigration websites. When you're looking for immigration help, you may find websites that look like they're connected with USCIS, but they're not. They may use names like US Immigration and show pictures of American flags or the Statue of Liberty. But here's a key to protecting yourself from these fake websites. If the website address doesn't end in .gov, that means it's not a federal government website and not connected with USCIS. These kinds of sites that are pretending to be associated with the government might charge you for forms that you can actually get for free from the government websites, and they might steal your personal information by having you type it in to their website. If you have to pay to download government immigration forms, you are not on a legitimate website. You may have to pay when you're submitting a form, but you can protect yourself, again, by making sure you are dealing with a legitimate website that ends in .gov. We always say at the Federal Trade Commission that scammers follow the headline. One topic in the news that imposter scammers are taking advantage of is COVID. We have seen reports that scammers are pretending to be from health departments, asking for information about vaccination status or offering vaccines, but for a fee. Again, this could come by phone, by email, or by text. Even you could see it in an advertisement on Facebook or other social media. And again, the scammers may copy logos from legitimate organizations, so it'll look real. But there are some clear rules on vaccines. First, you cannot be asked to pay in order to be put on a list to get a vaccination. And you will never be contacted out of the blue and asked for a government ID number, credit card number, or bank account number in connection with vaccinations. We also are seeing scams of people claiming that they can get COVID relief money to different people. And that's another area where you need to be very careful. You should never pay in advance, and you should be very careful of who you are giving your personal information to. So what should you do if you think maybe this is a government imposter that you're dealing with? How do you make sure whether you're really dealing with the government? Well, as I said, make sure that the website or the email that you are interacting with ends in that .gov for government. All federal government agencies will have websites or emails that end in .gov, and only government agencies can have a website or an email that ends in .gov. Look up the agency's contact information on your own and contact the agency to see if they were trying to reach you. This will take more time, but any government agency will give you enough time to do that and encourage you to do so if you have concerns. So don't just respond to the phone call. Don't just call a number that you see in an email or a text that you get, but take the time to look it up yourself to make sure that you are really contacting the actual government agency. Check in with a trusted friend, family member, or lawyer that you already have a relationship with. And if the caller or the email or the text tries to get you to act or share information before you can take some time to call back on your own, that's a scam. Again, the scammers are going to rush you. They're going to try to scare you. the legitimate government agencies are not going to make things that urgent. If you do get one of these contacts that seems like it's from the government, but it's actually not, or even if you just suspect that it's not, please report them to us at our website, FTCgov. For immigration scams, you can also call the ICE tip line without giving your identity. And I'll give you that phone number now if you want to write it down. The ICE tip line for anonymous tips about scams is 866-347-2423. And for COVID information specifically, there's a website that I will give you. You can write down. It's www.usa.gov/coronavirus. So usa.gov, notice that .gov website there lets you know that it's safe, /coronavirus. Although government imposter scams are a big problem, especially for international populations in the United States, there are many other kinds of imposter scams that hit us all. For example, you may get an email, a call, or a text that seems to be from your bank, telling you that someone broke into your account. They will ask you to click on a link or give them some information about yourself to verify that you're the account holder. Or you may be contacted by someone that seems to be from Amazon or PayPal, saying you need to pick up a package or keep your account from shutting down. Again, they will ask you to click on something or provide some sensitive information. As I'll discuss in a minute, you should never respond directly to these contacts or click on a link or attachment. But again, notice that common theme. They are sending you something that's going to get you scared, that's going to give you that sense of urgency, that someone broke into my account. I need to do something quickly. I need to react quickly. Again, they are doing that specifically in order to try and get us not to think as clearly. So since there are so many different ways that imposter scams work, what are some signs that you might be dealing with an imposter scam? Well, first, you're contacted unexpectedly. You get that call, email, or text from a government agency or bank or other company, but you weren't expecting anything. Government agencies will never contact you by email, phone, or text to ask for information. They will always use US mail. So if you do get contacted, you can always just wait for the letter to come before you react to something. Another tip that you may be dealing with an imposter scam is you are told you need to do something, pay money, or give them personal information right away. Remember, one of the best tools scammers have is to make us scared and feel like we need to act right away. They will try to get us to click on something quickly without thinking. And if they start a conversation with you on the phone or by text or email, they will try to stop you from checking in with anyone else before you respond. That's because they know that they are less likely to get that information or money from you if you do take the time to do that. So some tips for dealing with imposter scammers. First, never click on a link or an attachment in an email or text, even if it seems to be legitimate. And I will tell you, one of the hazards of working at a place like the Federal Trade Commission is I'm aware of all these different scams. So even when my mom sends me an email with some sort of link or attachment, if it's something that she's forwarded to me that she got from a friend and that person got from a friend and we don't really know where it started, I will not click on that link. I will not open that attachment because I don't know where it started and I don't know what's in it. And clicking on a link or an attachment can download an app or a piece of software onto your phone or your computer that allows the bad guys to get information from you without you even knowing it. That can download if you open up an attachment that seems to be a picture, for example. Stuck in that picture without you being able to see it could be a program that installs on your computer or your phone without you knowing it, and that program then harvests your information and sends it out, again, without you knowing it. And that's what the imposter scammers also try to do sometimes, is if you click on that link or that attachment, it might install in that link or attachment that you think is giving you, for example, immigration information or other benefits information. What it really might be doing is installing that software on your phone or your computer. It can also, clicking on that link or attachment without you really knowing where it's from, can take you to a website that's run by the scammer. And they can get even more information from you that way. Instead of clicking on a link or an attachment, look up the information or the website that they're pointing you to on your own. Make sure you're using a reliable source for that information. Similarly, if someone calls you asking for money or information, just hang up. You can decide whether to call the company or agency using a phone number that you have looked up on your own. And I'll talk more about this later, but even talking to a caller, even if you don't give them any personal information or bank account information, even talking to a caller helps the scammers and could lead to you getting more calls. And if you get an unexpected email, don't reply to it. As I'll talk about in a little bit, even replying helps the scammers. Take your time. Don't accept the urgency the person is trying to force you into. And look up telephone numbers and websites on your own. Don't trust the phone numbers or websites that a stranger is giving you out of the blue. But let me move on to another type of scam. And this one really targets people coming mainly from Spanish-speaking countries. So the problem is that in some Spanish-speaking countries, Notario Publico and Notary Public, or Notario, can be someone who actually has a lot of legal training. But in the United States, a notary or notary publico is just a witness to the signing of official documents. So some of the scammers in the United States pretend to be notarios, tricking people into thinking that these notarios are the same as in the other country and can provide real immigration help. But notarios in the US are not licensed lawyers and can't give you legal advice. But the scammers, they don't want you to know that. If you need legal advice about your immigration status, you need to speak to a lawyer. People who are designated as accredited representatives also can help. But if you go to a notario and the notario is not an accredited representative, that person is just taking your money. Sometimes going to a notario and giving them your documents will not only waste your money and your time, but it may hurt your chance to immigrate lawfully. At our website, FTCgov, you can get free Spanish language fotonovelas about the Notario scam and other scams. So to sum up about the Notario scams, don't go to someone that's advertising themselves as a notario for immigration or legal help. Don't sign blank immigration forms or forms that have false information about your situation. A dishonest notario may ask you to do this. Don't pay for immigration forms. The official forms from USCIS are free. Don't let a notario or anyone else keep your original document. But you should know that a lot of these scams, again, unfortunately, are run by people within the international community who may speak your language. So you can't rely on just the fact that someone speaks your language or comes again from your homeland to mean that you can absolutely trust them. We have also received reports about scams related to the diversity lottery. The United States Department of State manages the diversity visa immigrant program. Some people call this the visa lottery. It's free to enter. The winners, picked at random, win the chance to apply to become lawful permanent residents. The problem is that scammers try to trick people into paying money to apply to the program, promising special access or promising to increase someone's chances at winning the lottery. Again, all for a fee that they pay up front. So how can you protect yourself and your family from this scam? By knowing and sharing these facts. There are limits on how to sign up for the visa lottery. You can only enter the visa lottery once a year, only at a website that ends in .gov, and only if you're from an eligible country and meet the educational or work requirements. You don't have to pay to enter the visa lottery. The winners are picked at random, and no one can influence the results. So paying someone some money is not going to help. And you can only find out the status of your entry at a .gov website. And again, I'll give that as well. DV Lottery, D as in David, V as in Victor, lottery.state.gov. That's the only legitimate place where you can find out the status of your entry. So Joe shared the great news. I hadn't heard that before about Ohio and Northeast Ohio in particular welcoming in some Afghan refugees. I am very sorry to say that there are scams that target specifically refugee populations. They have different legal status, obviously, than other immigrants, but the scammers, they don't care. They're going to take their money every chance they can. So let me tell you a little bit about some of those scams. Sometimes they tell refugees that they're eligible for special government grant, but to get the money, they have to pay a fee first. You notice that's a common thread, right, is paying money up front. Or scammers might say that they're from the IRS and they need the person's bank account number to deposit grant money, but there is no special grant. You know this is a scam, again, because the government doesn't call or text or email to ask for bank account information. And remember, if someone tells you to pay using a gift card or a prepaid card or wire transfer or cryptocurrency, that's a sure sign of a scam. So how to protect yourself and your community from the scams that are targeting refugees? If you are working with a refugee, if someone reaches out to them about government aid, the real way to deal with that is to make sure they know to talk to the case manager at their resettlement agency immediately. And people, again, should never pay anyone who asks to pay by gift card, money transfer, or cryptocurrency for immigration help. You are dealing with a scammer if that's how they're asking you to pay. So I've been talking a lot about things you shouldn't do, that you shouldn't accept help from people who may seem like the government, but who contact you out of the blue and ask you to give sensitive information or to pay by gift card or money wiring services. That you shouldn't click on an attachment or link that you get unexpectedly in an email or text, even if the logo makes it seem like it's a legitimate government agency or a company that you're dealing with. That you shouldn't pay for immigration forms. That you shouldn't use a notario thinking that they can do legal work for you. That you shouldn't pay for the visa lottery. That you shouldn't pay for refugee protections. So what advice would I give you about what you should do? First, remember, take your time and think before you respond. If you do respond, use an email or a phone number that you already know is for the agency or company you're trying to get in touch with. That way, you can't be tricked by a fake phone number or email address. And talk to a friend or a family member or other trusted advisor about what you saw and heard and what you're thinking of doing. Any legitimate company or government agency will let you do that. Only an attorney or an accredited representative working for an organization recognized by the United States Department of Justice can give you legal immigration advice. An attorney must be a member of the professional association in their state, in Ohio here. Be sure that the attorney you choose is in good standing with that association, with the Ohio Bar. And an accredited representative is not a lawyer, but is authorized to give immigration advice. The accredited representative must work for an organization recognized by the Department of Justice. In addition, you can represent yourself in immigration proceedings if you want. The USCIS website, and I'll give you that address just to make sure that you have it. It's uscis.gov. That has a section called Explore My Options, which can help. And you can also contact the USCIS Contact Center And again, I'll give you the phone number, and thank you to whoever is putting this in the chat notes, these websites that I'm giving. I very much appreciate that. The phone number for the USCIS Contact Center is 800-375-5283. You can always contact them if you don't have the answers that you need. So let me talk about another big problem facing really everyone in the United States, and that's unwanted telephone calls. We get a lot of reports at the Federal Trade Commission about this, and we know that this is a big issue. We get these calls on our home phones and on our cell phones multiple times a day. Some people have reported 10 to 20 calls a day. So the first thing I want to talk about is fake caller ID numbers. As I mentioned, it is possible using computers for someone to call you using a fake caller ID. It's illegal, but technologically it's possible, and you wouldn't know just by looking at the caller ID. The strange thing about the fake caller ID is that they can put in any words or phone number they want when they are calling you. So not only can they make it seem that USCIS is calling you by putting that in the caller ID, they can also use a phone number that seems to be from your neighborhood because it has the same the first three digits are the same. In fact, they can even, and we've seen reports of this, they can even make it seem like the phone call is coming from your own phone number, just to make you curious enough that you'll actually answer it. So let me give you some tips for how to deal with this. I've followed these tips for years, and I get at most 1 to 2 calls a week. And most of them I've been able to steer to my home phone number, and I just let my answering machine screen them. First bit of advice is to sign up with the Do Not Call registry. You sign up once, and it's forever. And again, you can do this at our website, FTCgov. Signing up for the registry is not going to stop all of the calls, but it will stop some of them. And the ones who call you, if you don't have a relationship with them after you're on the Do Not Call registry, are breaking the law by calling you. So you know that they're criminals and you shouldn't trust them. Another tip, don't give out your phone number unless you have to. What happens is when you put your phone number out there, you have no control anymore of where it goes. And it just goes to whoever is willing to pay for it. So signing up for drawings, for example, to win something, if they pick a card out of a jar in order to win something, that phone number is not only going to the organization that's running the drawing, but they could then sell your phone number to all sorts of other organizations, which are going to lead, not organizations, but companies and scammers. It's going to lead to you getting more phone calls. Sometimes even legitimate companies are going to sell your phone number. So if you don't give it out, if you don't have to give it out, even to a company you trust, don't. There'll be a lot of times when I'm buying something and it's asking for information, and if it doesn't require that I give my phone number, I don't give it. Because the less my phone number is out there, the fewer phone calls I'm going to get. See what protections your phone company actually offers. Some phone companies will screen out spam calls for free, the calls from scammers, but they may not tell you that they offer this service. So you should go and ask them. You also might be able to pay for additional protections, but your phone company should provide you with at least some level of free protection. And if they don't, or if the protection isn't good enough, that's a good reason to shop around and go somewhere else. If you can, don't answer your phone. I know for some people, this isn't an option. They have to answer the phone because of family, because of work. But if you have a choice, let the phone ring through, see if the person leaves a voicemail. If they do, and it's someone that you want to deal with and you know who they are, you can call them right back. But I've found that most of the time they don't leave voicemails because most of the time they're not legitimate companies. And if it seems to be a call from a government or a company that you know, if you look at the caller ID and you're not sure, again, let it go to voicemail. The more you answer your phone actually, the more calls that you'll get. And I'll talk through this now a little bit, because what we've learned is that there is a whole system of selling information about people's phone numbers. This information gets bundled up and packaged in different ways, and then it gets sold all around the world. And so the more information that you reveal, and it doesn't have to be much, as I'll explain in a minute, the more information that you reveal, the more the likelihood is that you're going to get a call. So if you answer the phone, what the caller knows right there, even if you answer the phone and then hang up immediately, the caller knows that this is a working telephone number that is sometimes answered by a live person. So they can sell that phone number and say, here's a phone number, other business or other scammer, and I'm going to charge you a little bit more because I can guarantee you that this is sometimes answered by a real person. So that's one thing. If, for example, you are a man and you answer the phone, that's another piece of information that they will put together, and they can charge more for it. Not because you're a man versus a woman, but because they have that additional information. So they can say, hey, anybody who wants phone numbers that is likely to be answered by a real live person, and that person is a guy, here's a bunch of phone numbers for you, pay me a little bit more. So let's say then that you answer the phone and you actually talk to the caller. And it's so tempting for all of us to yell at the caller in some way or tell them to stop calling us. But we've learned, and we've changed our advice over the years because of this, we've learned that you should not, press 1 to be put on their list not to call, or do not talk to a representative to say, take me off of your list, because what they can then do is say, okay, this is a working phone number. It's answered, it's sometimes answered by a live person. That live person is a man, and that person is willing to engage. And that's worth even more money than just a regular old phone number. So each time you answer the phone and each time you interact with them in any way, you're actually helping the scammer, because you're giving them more information about yourself. Even if it's not specific information, it's still useful information that they will use and sell on to other people who are then going to be interested in calling you, leading to more calls. And a similar situation exists with emails. So again, don't respond to emails if you're not sure exactly where they're coming from. So remember that I've said, probably 5 or 10 times by now, that I want you to remember to visit FTCgov. Well, one reason is that you can find multilingual resources there. For example, if you go to, and I'm going to read out a simple website, so whoever is putting those in the chat, if you're able to do it for this one, it would be great. It's ftcgov/immigration. If you go to that website, you can get information that we've created to help avoid scams against international communities. Again, that's ftc.gov/immigration. And this information that we have about immigration scams, but also about other scams, is available in a number of different languages. We have information in Amharic, Arabic, Chinese, both simplified and traditional characters, Haitian Creole, Dari, French, Korean, Russian, Somali, Spanish, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. You can also find most of our educational materials in Spanish. Pretty much everything that we have is also available in Spanish, but we have some key pieces of information in those languages that I identified. Another place that you can find some of our materials that are in other languages other than English is at ftc.gov/languages. And these are all free. Again, when I was talking about the government imposter, remember, the scammers will try to charge you for resources that are available for free. And if any of you work at an organization that deals with international populations, I also want you to know that these have no copyright. So you are free to take this information from our websites and use it yourself in anything that you put out there, on paper, online, in your emails. Take the information, put it out there, get it out to people. That's all that we care about. You don't have to say that it came from the FTC, although of course you're welcome to, and hopefully that will help people trust the information. But whatever it takes to get this information out to people, that's what we want to do. So I'm going to sum up now, and then I'll see if anyone has any questions. And I'll go back to the three things that I said at the beginning that I hope that you will take away from this. First is our website, ftc.gov. Second is that your personal information can be just as valuable to these scammers as your money. And third, don't give in to the fear and the urgency that the scammers are using to try and trick you. Take your time, go and talk to someone that you already know and that you already trust about what it is that you heard. And just that process of taking your time and talking it through, most of the time will help you to see that this is a scammer that you're dealing with and help you to protect yourself, your family, your community. So thank you again to Global Cleveland for giving me this opportunity to talk with you all. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks so much, John. That was a really thoughtful presentation, and I'm so happy this is being recorded because I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be watching this. It's so many people I know who would benefit from this, and sadly, so many people I know who would have benefited from this had they talked to you first. John, a question came in on one of our channels. Can the people that are doing this bad behavior also pull info about you from your recorded voicemail message? Is there anything that people should think about in terms of, people that are just calling random numbers to see if there is a voicemail message, and any advice you would have on that?
Yeah, that's a great question and a great insight. As I was saying, if you answer the phone, they can tell certain things about you. Well, the same is true, obviously, with your voicemail message. And for that, you're going to have to strike a balance. I mean, again, for some of us, we need to be able to convey a little bit about who we are because of the calls that we get. But if most of the time the calls that you're getting are from people you know, then don't give out your name. Don't give out your personal information. If there is a setting to have it be an automated, you have called 555-1234, then yes, using that will protect your information even more. I know that's not an option for everybody, but it is something to consider.
Thanks so much, John. Next question that came in is, do you have any suggestions for the best software or cybersecurity? I know it's not just the person or the business. We have a lot of conversations with nonprofits that are serving the international community, and people don't really care who they steal from. It's just a matter of trying to get what they can. And I wonder if you had any suggestions about things just to make sure that cybersecurity and that the walls were secure.
Yeah, I'm so glad that that question was asked. It's so important, and a lot of times people with cybersecurity think, well, it's only whatever might be in the news, the big gas companies that have to worry about it. But you're absolutely right. They will go anywhere that they can, and it's so easy that if they can get a little bit of information from a small organization, they will do that. And not only that, but a lot of times, we all are so interconnected now that it might be that a small organization gives the bad guys the entree that they need into bigger organizations. So the Federal Trade Commission does not recommend any particular pieces of software or any other product for that matter. That's not how we're set up as a government agency. But we do have a number of tips that are again available at our website on what even small organizations can do that don't have the money for a full-time dedicated IT staff. There are things that they can do in order to protect themselves. And one of the simplest is to just always make sure that your software is updated. every piece of software that you have, make sure that it's updated to the latest information. There was just something in the news in the last week about an update that Apple was giving because they realized that there was a company that had figured out how to get past some of their security systems. So just doing that update on everything that you can is a huge step you can take.
Thanks so much, John. The next question came in, and it was about if someone has already been scammed, if they have been a victim of one of these operations, is there any help for them?
There is. There are a couple of different things. So again, the first thing that I would ask is for people to report it at FTC.gov. But I do want to be clear that we just aren't able to get involved in every single matter that we hear about. So we're not going to be able to respond specifically to a particular complaint. But first of all, there are all sorts of local and state agencies that look at our reports. We give access to government agencies and the reports, and so a lot of times they will be able to reach out and help people who filed reports with us. But the other thing that I could recommend is, in addition to filing a report with us, because we have such a broad reach, it's valuable to do that. But in addition to that, there are great resources at the state and local level. The Cuyahoga County Consumer Protection Agency does amazing work, and they can help out. The Ohio State Attorney General's Consumer Protection Office also does amazing work, and they have, for certain types of scams, they have people that can actually get involved and walk people through what they're facing. So I would recommend both filing a complaint with us, but then also looking to the local agencies.
Thanks so much, John. And final question that we had was, can you share the best ways that a business or a nonprofit can post ways to get in touch with them on their website that are harder for scammers to scam?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that I have a good answer to that one. Obviously you need to get your information out to people on the websites, and when you do, the websites can be scraped, is the term that they use. Your logo can be captured and can be used by the bad guys. Yeah, I don't have anything, because you need to be able to help people.
Right.
I'm going to have to think about that one. Sorry, you stumped me on that one.
Well, John, it's a good day when we can stump an expert from the Federal Trade Commission. And I would say whenever those questions come from the newcomer community, it's always something that we hadn't thought about either. So, John, we actually feel better because you answered actually more questions than we could ever answer on anything. So we really appreciate you. John, I want to thank you so much. This was a really, really thoughtful conversation. Thanks for making something that's not only hard to understand, but probably hard to talk about easier for folks. We really do appreciate it. We want to thank you, John. Your work at the East Central region of the Federal Trade Commission is so important. And we want to thank you for posting all the information that you have and all the languages that you do. That's always something that we find to be a challenge in terms of language access. So thank you for that. We also want to thank our sponsors, without whom we couldn't make important programs like this possible. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Water Department, Italian Tours and Travel by Diana, K&D Group, the United Church of Christ, Katney's Classics, the City of Shaker Heights, Cleveland State University, Cuyahoga Community College, Cuyahoga County Public Library, RPM International, the Union Home Mortgage Cleveland Marathon, October 23rd and 24th with Jack Staff, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, Downtown Cleveland Alliance, Dealer Tire, Swage Lock, Welcome House Incorporated, Platform Brewery, AMS, Medical Mutual, Mitchell's Ice Cream, Cleveland Transformation Alliance, Grants Plus, Mansur Gavin, Margaret Wong and Associates, Midtown Cleveland, the Neighborhood Family Practice, the Legal Aid of Society of Cleveland, the Cleveland Foundation, the City of Cleveland, and Cuyahoga County. There will be a replay of the movie that we had and discussion with Welcome Strangers, with the movie director from the Community Leaders of Cleveland at 2 p.m. on Facebook. Please don't miss out on our raffle drawing happening live at Pickwick and Frolic for tickets to Hilarities today from one of our partners with Pickwick and Frolic, live on Facebook at 5 p.m. Please check Global Cleveland's website for more information. Remember that belonging begins with us. We strengthen our city by welcoming our world. John, thank you. Everybody, thank you. Have a great weekend.